Good day to our wonderful bus drivers of Jefferson County Public Schools. Today, we will be going and reviewing de-escalation on the bus. This is being presented to you from the Jefferson County Public Schools Transportation Department and the Behavior Support Systems Department. And my name today is Ronzel Smith. Let's get into it. Escalators versus de-escalators. I want to start off, there is no single guarantee response to de-escalate a potentially violent youth or their parent. Every situation is unique to the day, the time, and the area. It is important to note that conflicts occasionally occur because the driver happened just to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes our students have experienced trauma the night before and might come onto your bus, and they might be very escalated. However, there are behaviors that are high probability escalators of conflict and high probability de-escalators of conflict. So let's dive into it today. Some of the escalators, high probability escalators include cornering. And what cornering is if you have a student on a bus and you standing over that student while they're very escalated, imagine a wild dog or an animal in a corner. They will fight their way out. And we're not calling our students animals or anything like that, but we cannot force them into a corner where they don't have any escape. So in order to deal with if you have a student that's escalated, don't back them in the corner. Stay a certain feet away. Just continue to talk. And the second one is humiliating. You're on a bus with many students, and if you humiliate a student, it's more valuable for that student to lash out to you than to see that they're weak in front of their peers. So humiliating is embarrassment to the student, and we might not know at the time what trauma that student has experienced when someone is humiliating, and that might escalate that student. Escalators. These escalators hold true for the students and their parents, and also the bus driver. So as a bus driver or a bus monitor, we must know what triggers our escalators. It might be if a student is cursing you out. It might be if a student is approaching you. So take the time to recognize what escalates you as a bus driver. Cornering signals to the brain that there is no escape from a potential dangerous situation, and the best alternative for survival is to fight. Humiliation is an assault to one's identity. It signals that a physical attack may follow. Ignoring someone signals to them that they're invisible and without power. And let's face it, who likes to be humiliated in front of their peers? And we know and we have to take into account these days that if we're humiliating, especially with the middle and high school students, that it could be other students that may be recording that student being humiliated and share it on social media. So that one incident can multiply into thousands of incidents that can cause true trauma to that student. Each escalator may spark a conflict, and if you string them together like a row of firecrackers, one start lighting and the next one start lighting, and then soon you'll have a row of incidents that are very explosive. High probability de-escalators show empathy and responsibility, being calm, assertive, informing, reflective listening, asking open-ended questions, unifying statements. Humans have a mirror neurons, which drive us to mimic each other's behavior. For instance, if I'm talking loud, the person that I'm talking to will talk loud also. When one person gets hyped, if the other person isn't intentional about their own action, they will immediately imitate what they see. For instance, if I'm talking low, usually the person that's talking loud will have to talk low because they can't hear what you're saying. So when you're dealing with a student that's escalated, don't yell. Try to talk lower to bring that student down, because in order for that student to hear you, they have to stop yelling themselves. This is especially true when dealing with children and youth, using a calm, assertive voice and body language. It signals a non-threatening intent and self-control on your part. Always remember, you have 40-some video cameras on that bus. So if you're yelling and out of control, it appears that you as the adult is out of control. But if you're calm, collective, and assertive, that's the first step to de-escalating the situation. Before getting on the bus, anticipate the time, day, time of the year. Keep a short, clear set of expectations visible, and talk about them once in a while. Remember that our students are coming back from NTI and they've been out of school since around March. So we have to reacclimate them to the bus expectations about being responsible, use respect, and staying safe on the bus. So we have to teach those expectations. Understand the ages and stage of children on your bus. Our elementary and preschool students are very different from our middle and high students, but we have to teach the expectations. Learn what to ignore and what to pay attention to. We want to give our kids a fair shot and really teach them replacement behaviors instead of the behaviors that they're displaying. If a student or driver safety becomes a concern, always follow your JCPS policies. Stop the bus in a safe place out of traffic. Secure the bus. Stand up and speak clearly and calmly to the students who are displaying escalated behaviors. Remember, don't corner the student. Try to talk to them. Try to minimize, and try not to humiliate them or scream across the bus at them, because that can escalate the situation. When intervening in conflicts, use caution not to challenge or provoke students who are displaying aggressive behavior, because it may initiate further negative responses. Most importantly, maintain control of your own emotion. We have certain triggers as adults. We might not like students cursing at us. We might not like students yelling at us. But we have to maintain and control our emotion. Appear calm, centered, and self-assured. Use a modulated, low tone of voice. Be aware of options. Make sure you call the school. Notify your supervisor or security if appropriate, or the police if you need that extreme help. Be very respectful, even when firmly setting limits or calling for help. Don't be defensive, even if the comments or insults are directed at you. One thing is to remember, students that have trauma and students that are displaying escalated behaviors, is not necessarily you who they're targeting. It could be other external factors that you might not know about. So we can't take it as personal because that student is directed. You just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Communicate effectively, non-verbally. Allow extra physical space between you and the aggressor. Get to the same eye level. Keep your hands out of your pockets to protect yourself, and stand at an angle to the student. Don't ever turn your back. Stand full front to the student. Maintain constant eye contact, and point or shake your finger, smile, or argue. You shouldn't point directly at a student. You shouldn't shake your finger, because that can be considered an aggressive behavior. And smiling at a student while they're escalated, that can really agitate, because that student might feel like you're not listening to them. And try not to argue. One of the things that we'll work through is that if a student is stating something, a problem to you, restate that problem to them. In other words, de-escalate the discussion. Trust your instinct, empathize with feelings, but not with the behavior. Suggest alternatives and explain the limits in a firm but respectful tone. For instance, if a student is angry that no one is listening to you, restate the same thing statement that the student has explained to you. For instance, I would probably say, so my understanding is that no one is listening to you. So talk to me. What is going on? So that allows the student to talk to me, but I really just restated what that student was mad about without agitating or ridiculing that student. Don't get loud, don't yell, don't scream, argue, or analyze. Just be a vessel to let kids vent and listen and restate. Give them positive options, replacement behaviors. Maybe a student refusing to sit down on the bus. Explain to them, hey, I want to get you guys home safe. So I need you guys to sit down so I can get you home safe in a timely manner. That's something a student can relate to. While the bus is in motion, give verbal warnings using student names whenever possible. Call your school or supervisor. Avoid stare downs using the rearview mirror. When the bus is stopped, have students change seats. If you have a bus with students that escalate highly, maybe you want to sit them closer or further away from other students that might escalate with each other. Talk with students who have demonstrated challenging behavior. Be proactive. This should be done individually to avoid potentially reigniting the challenging situation. Talk to that student privately and say, hey, I want to get you home safe. I want to take you to school safely, and have that one-on-one conversation with that student. It helps build a positive relationship with that student. Implement seat assignments based on district policy. Request assistance from the school or the teachers as appropriate. Our first strategy, informing statements such as, it's dangerous for you and other students to get out of the seat because I am unable to safely drive when you're jumping in the aisles. This is an informing statement that gives rationale to the directions or requests that you're asking a student. So you really want to give that rationale, because students can relate to that. Okay, if I'm up jumping and everything around, my driver can't get us home in a timely manner. And one thing I learned by being a classroom teacher is that time matters for students. Strategy 2, coupling information statements. Coupling informing statements with reflective statements help the students or parents know they're being heard and not ignored. I get your frustration and concern about your daughter being bullied. I'm glad you told me about it. I'm going to keep an eye out for her from now on and keep you posted. That coupling informing statements helps de-escalate. That parent could be very irate, or the student could be very irate, but what you did in this statement is say, I recognize you, I hear you. And when parents or students feel that, it helps de-escalate them. Open-ended questions. Open-ended questions that require more than a yes or a no. Answer interrupt escalating behavior by re-engaging the student's cognitive process and send the message the driver is concerned about them. When you ask open-ended questions, students have to actually shut off their escalation and really focus on the question that you're asking, because it requires more than just a yes or a no. What's going on back there? So now I have to tell them what's going on, and I have to state a story. Was there something going on today that made you late for the bus? This allows the student to give their side of the story and explain. It doesn't matter if we might feel that it's a lie or they're falsifying information. We're giving that student the opportunity to explain so they feel valued. Unifying statements. Unifying statements that begin with we and us, such as, we all want to get to school safely, right? That connects the driver and the students. It's almost a relationship building statement also. It sends the message that the driver and parent or student are on the same team and on the same page and share a common problem. It is much more difficult for the potential person to threaten or inflict violence when someone identifies with them and they have a relationship with each other. As a reminder, hands off. Don't place your hands on students except to protect them in an immediate emergency. Make sure you follow district policy when dealing with hands-on students. Don't try to assist a student in the seat by forcing him or her down. Any physical contact between a bus driver or attendant and student must be an absolute last resort in an emergency situation. No one wins really in this situation, so make sure you follow the district policy. And this is just resources for your pleasure citing. And I thank you guys. I thank you for what you do every day. And let's be safe out there.